Greetings and welcome to the Final William podcast, where I took a break and now I'm back. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter, to be honest. Boy, we sure did miss a lot this past month, but now it's time to look at the end of a chapter and the opening of a new one. At least in theory, that's what WrestleMania is. Let's see what actually happened. But before we talk about WrestleMania, let's talk about the wrestling show that happened on the Friday before WrestleMania. First up was NXT Takeover Dallas. I was actually really looking forward to this show. I personally made sure that I didn't have my computer in front of me. I just sort of took the time to sit back and actually watch and enjoy the show as it was happening. And overall, I loved this show. If you haven't seen the episode of NXT from last week, don't bother. It really, you didn't miss anything, because all that was in that episode was just a bunch of recaps of what happened at Dallas, as well as some video interviews that were all put up on WWE.com and their YouTube channel the night of Takeover Dallas. And the only thing that was new was that they showed the match between Apollo Crews and Elias Samson, which was originally supposed to be during Takeover, but it got pushed to the pre-show and was taped for this show. And it's very clear that they had no idea what to put in this episode of NXT. So before Takeover, they taped Apollo Crews versus Elias Samson. I didn't realize they did that till after Takeover was over, so there was a little bit of confusion on my part trying to figure out exactly, what happened to this match. The match itself was okay at best. Whenever Crews was in control, he did impressive things, but Elias Samson is not interesting at all outside of his awesome theme song, which I wish was given to anyone else, just so I can listen to it and not go, oh boy, I'm not going to like this match very much. I don't know what it is about Elias, but nothing about his wrestling or his character is working for me. They need to figure something out. And even have both Graves and Phillips crapping on the guy, so nothing's really working. But yeah, the match itself, it was okay. Apollo Crews got the win, which was the right move, especially given what happened on Monday. But yeah, so pretty forgettable match. You don't really need to watch the most recent episode of NXT. But on the main show, Takeover officially started with the Revival, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder defending against American Alpha, the team of Jason Jordan and Chad Gable. Oh man, this was a great match. I really, really liked this match. You had a lot of really good tag team stuff. I think that's what what I think really liked this match. There was a lot of actual tag team wrestling. It wasn't just a bunch of one-on-one matchups where with tags, both teams were doing tag team maneuvers and tag team strategies, and it really helped the match, I feel like. The Revival, I don't think get enough credit for how good of heels they are. They showed how good they were as heels at NXT Takeover Respect when they faced Balor and Joe, but in this one they really showed how good their heel tag team work is. Just everything that they did to distract the ref and gain an illegal advantage. They're really good at their jobs. There was even one point where they did an illegal tag from the apron just so they can distract the ref and I believe Chad Gable and get the legal advantage on him. It was great. And then Jordan and Gable teaming up together was good too. For me, the spot was I really liked the part where Dash and Dawson were going for the double suplex, and they were going to deliver it on Chad Gable, but Jason Jordan came in, caught Gable, and they were able to reverse it on them, and eventually they were able to do double German suplexes. That was great. And the ending, They were able to do a bit of turnabout as fair play where Jordan got a blind tag. Scott Dawson, who, by the way, is the bald one, didn't see Jordan. Jordan got him from behind. They were able to hit high amplitude, I believe their American Alpha's finishers, and America Alpha got the win and the new tag team champions. And it was a really great match, really enjoyable. There was just that one spot where, unfortunately, they were doing some Dash and Dawson were going for some kind of double team power bomb, and it didn't work. Something went wrong. I don't know what, but other than that, really good match. They were actually able to recover from the botch pretty easily, so good for them. Really good match. Really happy for American Alpha. They did great. And then the next match was Austin Aries making his NXT in-ring debut against Baron Corbin. And I'm going to be completely honest here, it was not what I was expecting. Heading into this match, I actually was expecting Austin Aries to get a lot more offense in. In fact, I was expecting him to win, and not necessarily by the Brainbuster, because it was questioned whether or not he'll be allowed to use it. I was expecting him to use the Last Chancery to get the submission win, but that's not what happened. The majority of this match was Baron Corbin on offense, and the match ended with Austin Aries reversing the Ends of Days, which was a really cool reversal, and getting the surprise pin on Corbin. The way that the match was paced and the way the ending was set up, it makes me believe that this is a program that the two of them are going to have, but I don't know how long this program's going to last due to what happened to Baron Corbin later in the week. So we'll have to see what happens, but a bit disappointed in the match. It was still a good match, but I think expectations hurt it because I really like Austin Aries, and it wasn't the kind of match I was expecting, to be honest. And then after Aries and Corbin, we had the match of the night, in my opinion, and probably the match of the entire weekend. Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I am familiar with Shinsuke Nakamura. I know I haven't seen as many of his matches as other people, but I'm aware of how good he is and how big of a deal he is. And clearly, the entire audience knew too. And one thing that NXT does very well is making people seem like a big deal. Because you had Sami Zayn come out, and the sound of everyone singing his theme song was just awesome. It was such a such an awesome thing to hear. And Nakamura's entrance is perfect for him. It was a perfect entrance. They treated it like he was the biggest thing to happen to NXT. And you can argue that he is the biggest thing to happen to NXT. It's very debatable because they have some pretty big stars there. But you could argue he's the biggest thing to happen to NXT. And that entrance is so great. They did such a good job with everything involved in it. And the music, I don't know if they finally put the theme song on iTunes yet, but I want that theme song. It is so good. It's amazing. You know what else was amazing? The match. The match, what's crazy is that, I keep hearing how this is not Zayn and Nakamura at their best, that they were maybe at half of what they can do, and it's crazy. Just the spots that these guys were doing, but just the build up, because it started I don't want to say slow. It started slower than it finished, and then it ramped up, and it was pretty much perfect as a match. The only thing going against it is that it had no real story going into it, to be quite honest. But the audience, I think the crowd reception adds a lot to matches, and they were so receptive to the match, where you have the audience just asking these two to fight forever. That was really quite a sight to behold. The forearm shots was great. Just a well done match. There's not much else to say, to be honest. Just just if you haven't seen this match, go see this match. It's amazing. Nakamura got the win, as he should, with his spinning knee strike thing that I forgot the name of. They changed it. But the crowd cheered, they chanted. I was just spent, emotionally because of how good the match was. It was great. And then Sami Zayn got a farewell from the audience because everyone pretty much knew this was his last match. And I think it's a heck of a way to go out. As they say, when you're leaving a company or a territory, you do the honors on the way out, and this was one hell of a way for Sami Zayn to do the honors. Great match. You have to see it. And this is where I thought the Apollo Crews Elias Samson match was going to happen. And I feel like it really should have, because the audience probably needed at least a few minutes to gather themselves. But it never happened. So instead, they went right into Bayley defending the Women's Championship against Asuka. And I feel like the audience didn't give the match as much attention as it deserved because they were so worn out from Zayn and Nakamura. That's not to say they weren't paying attention to it, but they just, they weren't giving it as much as I felt like it deserved. But it was actually a very good match. Every match told a story, and the story of this match was counters. There was a lot of sequences of Bayley and Asuka either countering each other's moves or dodging each other's moves. It was very back and forth in that regard. And for me, the spot of the match was when Bayley was able to counter Asuka's enziguri into a knee bar. That got the crowd really woken up and really reacting to the move. And the funny thing with Bayley is that even though she technically doesn't have a finishing maneuver that is a submission hold, she's won two of her last two takeover matches by submission, defeating Sasha Banks with the Rings of Saturn and defeating Nia Jax with the guillotine. What's weird is that the crowd didn't really react to when she did either of those submissions, but they reacted when she did the knee bar submission. So there's pros and cons to that strategy of technically not having a finisher as a submission, but still being able to win with submissions. I like the idea that she will occasionally go for different submission moves and win by them. But yeah, in the end, Asuka was able to get the Asuka lock in, and Bayley fought out at first, but Asuka reversed the reversal and got the Asuka locked in, and Bayley passed out and lost. And as soon as the Asuka lock was locked in after the reversal, I knew Asuka was winning. As soon as it happened, I said, yeah, this is it. And to be honest, I knew going into the match, I didn't know for sure, but I had a really strong feeling that Asuka was winning, and I'm glad for her. But I just didn't want to see Bayley lose, because I'm not going to lie, I'm a big Bayley fan, and I just didn't want to see her lose. And she lost the title, and the audience seemed very shocked. It was definitely more of a pro Bayley crowd, I think. Or they just wasn't expecting her to lose the title. It's going to be interesting to see who they have dethrone Asuka. It's also going to be interesting what happens to Bayley, because I assumed the reason that I thought Bayley was losing the title to begin with is because I thought she was going up to the main roster. We'll get to that. We'll get to that when we talk about Raw. But now I'm kind of wondering why they had her drop the title. And if she's not going to the main roster, what is she doing afterwards? I don't know. Maybe she'll get a rematch. And then we'll see from there what happens. But yeah, Bayley lost the title. Asuka's the new champion. Good for her. Asuka's probably the one person that the crowd would accept beating Bayley for the title. So having her beat her is probably the smartest thing they could have done. But it'd be interesting to see what happens, because you have this unstoppable babyface killing machine in Asuka, so someone's got to beat her eventually. The question is who? I don't know. We'll have to see. And then we had the main event of Finn Balor defending against Samoa Joe. Okay. So a few notes on this match. Finn Balor's entrance this time around was an homage to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And honestly, I didn't think it worked. I thought this was Finn Balor's worst demon entrance that he's done to date in NXT. I don't know. I felt like the costume needed more to make it clear that he was supposed to be Leatherface. And I felt like he should have done more with the chainsaw, because he didn't do that much. Yeah, it just didn't work. And then for the match itself, right away, Samoa Joe accidentally got cut open right underneath the eye. And it made him look vicious. And there was one point early on, where he threw Finn Balor over the security railing and he landed on a security guard. That was cool. That was a cool visual. That was a cool spot. But the biggest thing that hurt this match was that cut. Specifically because you had the medics constantly stopping the match to try to treat Joe's wound. And it really hurt the pace of the match. And for me, it actually made it really hard to keep invested in it, because it was just this constant pausing and stuff. And I realize that it is a health concern, but the problem is that a cut underneath the eye is one of the hardest cuts to close up when you're in the position that they're in. And as a result, they really should have, I don't know, maybe just done one a bit longer session, maybe do a thing where Finn Balor is like taken out for like a minute on the outside. I know that, it should spark a count out, but whatever. The ref forgets to counter or something. And then he just kind of presses against the cut with a towel or something. Something should have been done. But what happened really hurt the match. And the other thing is that I don't know what it is. I like Joe, and I like Balor, but I didn't care for their London match as much as other people. And I think that carried over to this match. Maybe it's because I was a bit spent after, the matches that happened before it, but I just couldn't get in this match as much as other people did. And it's not, I didn't think it was bad. It's just didn't capture me. And, I feel a little bad about saying this. And, I'm not saying the match was terrible, but I don't know. I just, I thought the women's Nakamura and tag match were all better. And it's hard to explain why. But, I think part of the thing that hurt it was the ending, the finish, because, basically, they did the, Bret Austin Survivor Series 96, aka the Bret Piper WrestleMania 7 finish, WrestleMania 8 finish, where Joe has Balor in the Coquina Clutch, and Joe runs up the turnbuckles to reverse it into a pinfall. That feels like an ending to a match, like the first match of the feud. Like, that felt like that should have been the ending to the first match. And then this match, if Balor was going to win 2 in a row, he should have won more definitively. Because that just felt like, yeah, because for something that's supposed to be like this big blood feud, even before, the blood actually happened, it felt like if Balor was going to win, he should have won more definitively, So does that mean there's going to be a third match between these two? Which, I don't know. Don't know if I'm down with that, to be honest. We'll have to see. So yeah, overall, I mean, it was still a good match. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I just couldn't get into it as much as other people did. But overall, Takeover Dallas was a fantastic show. I really enjoyed it overall. It was great crowd, great atmosphere. Really like just sitting back and watching wrestling. It was a lot of fun, and actually took me a bit to actually cool down and get to bed. And then had to wait till Sunday for even more wrestling. Speaking of even more wrestling, let's talk about WrestleMania 32, which was last Sunday, April 3rd. And we had 3 pre-show matches. First up was Kalisto versus Ryback. Now, this was on the first hour of the pre-show, so it was the one that didn't make it onto USA Network. Kalisto versus Ryback. Kalisto won the match. I actually liked the match, personally. I thought they did a good job together. It was very basic, but it was still good. It was good big guy versus small guy stuff. The way Kalisto won, I liked, where the turnbuckle gets ripped, Ryback goes into the turnbuckle that's exposed, and Kalisto gets the Selena del Sol for the win. I felt bad for them because there was a lot of people who didn't see the match. Apparently, AT&T Stadium had some issues scanning people's tickets and getting people into the building. I heard that there was like 20,000 people who still didn't get in by the time the ladder match started or something like that. And that was, at the start of the show. So a lot of people were angry. And some people waiting for like hours trying to get in. But it's like, how do you mess that up? Because you do this. Assumingly, they do this all the time for Cowboys games. So I don't understand how they couldn't handle that many people. Like, apparently, their Wi-Fi system went down or something. I felt so bad, and that probably hurt WWE too, because that's less time for people maybe buy some merchandise before the show or anything like that. And it hurt Kalisto and Ryback because less people saw their match live, and that must have sucked. But either way, Kalisto got the win. I hope they do more with him as champion, but we'll discuss that in a little bit. And then it was Team Total Divas, Brie, Bella, Paige, Natalya, Alicia Fox, and Eva Marie versus Team Bad and Blonde, Lana, Naomi, Tamina, Emma, and Summer Rae. This was a perfectly fine multi-woman tag match. Eva Marie and Lana had very limited time in the ring, and rightfully so. So nothing they did was like that bad. Pretty much everyone got to show off cool moves and do their stuff. Very surprised that Eva Marie didn't turn on the Total Divas since no one likes her. But I'm in a happy finish. Brie Bella got the win by doing a rolling yes lock on Naomi. And it was actually a really cool finish, the way she did it. And it was confirmed later that night that was indeed Brie Bella's final match. She has retired and is going home to live with Daniel Bryan. And I wish her luck. And honestly, I like Brie. I liked her better than most people, I think. And it's nice that she was able to end it on a high note like that. Cool finish, and she got the win. So good for her. The other thing that's worth noting is that for the second half of the pre-show, I actually watched it on USA Network, since USA is more reliable than the WWE Network. The big difference between watching on USA and watching the WWE Network is that for USA, the commercial breaks are a lot longer, so you actually miss more of the match that happens. So, yeah, I had to go back and rewatch some of the women's match afterwards because the commercial break I missed a bunch. But then afterwards, it was the Usos versus the Dudley Boys. This was a very basic, short match. It's the shortest match on the card that happened, if you don't count The Rock and Eric Rowan, but we'll get to that. I believe it was Jey Uso won with a super kick. Nothing was really accomplished. The only other thing during the pre-show that's worth mentioning is that the announcement that by Lita that the Divas title will be retired and starting at WrestleMania, women will now be competing for the Women's WWE Championship. And the Divas division will no longer be Divas. They are superstars just like the men are, and they're the women's division, and I think that is all great. That is all great steps towards improving the women's division because NXT does the women's division so much better than the main roster does, and this is pretty much putting them on par at the moment. And that's good. That's a good thing. We'll get to the women's title match in a little bit. But to start off the show, we had the multi-man ladder match as Kevin Owens defended against Sami Zayn, Dolph Ziggler, Stardust, Zack Ryder, The Miz, and Sin Cara. The funny thing about this match is that the build for this ladder match was actually worse than the build for last year's ladder match because, say what you want about the build last year, at least everyone involved in that match was actually had a storyline and interconnected with each other. Part of the storyline for the ladder match this year was the fact that Kevin Owens brought in Zack Ryder, Sin Cara, and Stardust to the mix because he thought that they would be easy pickings and aren't actually worthy for a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. It's a bit messed up, but match itself was really good. You could argue that it was better than last year's. Really good match. So a lot of cool spots. Zack Ryder doing the elbow off of the ladder was cool. I believe was it Sin Cara and Stardust that went through the ladder? Going through the ladder spots are always cool. I always really enjoy those. And in the end, you had the ending was actually really well done. Sami Zayn does an exploder suplex on Kevin Owens onto a ladder, which that looked brutal. Sami Zayn goes to get the title, but The Miz cuts him off. And when it looked like The Miz was going to become the new champion, Zack Ryder comes from behind, pushes him off, and gets the title. Everyone goes nuts. My jaw literally drops because I was shocked at what I've seen. I couldn't believe Zack Ryder won. I was so happy for him. And I get it that they did a poor job building him up. I understand. And I get it. And I think I'll talk about it a bit more when we get to Raw. I didn't care about any of that. I was just really happy for the guy that he got the win. And you can argue whether or not they should have or not. It's a case of I just don't care. It was a cool moment. A bunch of wrestlers were wishing him well. The audience was still into him. They still love him. And him getting to hug his dad. And regardless of what happened afterwards and what might happen in the future, Zack Ryder had that moment. And it was great. He was great. Great way to start the show. And then things started to get weird. So after that was Chris Jericho and AJ Styles. And they had a good match. I honestly thought that their match at Fastlane was better. But it was still a good match, don't get me wrong. The shocking part was the fact that Chris Jericho won, which is weird to have. Yeah, the entire build-up for the match felt like AJ Styles had to win, and said they had Jericho win, and it's bizarre, very bizarre. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. But yeah, the endings of a match can really put a damper on how you view a match, and that ending definitely did put a damper on things. Then afterwards was the New Day against the League of Nations, or more specifically, Sheamus, Alberto Del Rio, and Rusev. So before we talk about the bad of this match, let's talk about the New Day's entrance. They had a giant box of Budios on stage. The box tips over, cereal comes out of the box, and then the New Day comes out of the box dressed up as Saiyans from Dragon Ball Z. That was amazing. Oh man, that was cool. I actually got really hyped for that because of just how cool it looked, and being a Dragon Ball fan and all. That looked great. Then the rest of the match happened. The build-up for this match was so weird because originally this was supposed to be a 4-on-6 handicap match for the tag titles, and then the day of, it got switched to a 3-on-3. Well, then it got switched to a non-title match. Then it got switched the day of to a 3-on-3 title, non-title match with King Barrett sitting out. Okay. It was a very basic match. There was nothing really outstanding about it, unfortunately. And I should have seen this coming. The moment that they changed it from a title match to a non-title match. But the League of Nations won via cheating. And that sucks. That really sucks. Then the League of Nations was like, no, 3 men can beat us. And then Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, and Stone Cold came out and to attack them, and they look cool and all. And like, I'm gonna be completely honest here. If I was there, maybe I would have liked it more, but I'm just done with seeing like legends run in and beating current wrestlers. Just the whole concept, because WWE's done the whole legends coming in stuff so much that it wears down a bit. So yeah, it was cool seeing them back, but you didn't have to defeat New Day in order to have the run in, because you could have had New Day win, and then the League of Nations attack them afterwards, since it's 4-on-3, and then have the legends come in and make the save then, and that would have been fine. Even the part with Xavier Woods getting the stunner from Austin, which I think Austin sold well. Doing the whole, I'm going to dance with you. No, I'm not going to dance with you. I'm going to beat you up. I thought that was great. That part was great, but you didn't have to have the League of Nations win, and it actually contributes to a larger problem that I'll get to in a minute. Then was Brock Lesnar against Dean Ambrose in a no-holds-barred street fight. Man, was this match disappointing. And the reason I thought this match was disappointing was because on WWE.com/YouTube, they posted a video of Dean Ambrose training in Las Vegas. And during that training, he mentioned his past in CZW. And they mentioned CZW by name. And in fact, they even show footage from CZW. And that brought up my expectations in terms of what they were going to use. Plus, you had Mick Foley giving Dean Ambrose the barbed wire baseball bat and stuff like that. And I just thought, it's going to be a car crash of a match. And not to mention, like, the week before, a week or two, I think it was a week beforehand, I had watched the Chicago Street Fight from WrestleMania 13, and, it just didn't live up to that, because there wasn't a lot of weapons used. There wasn't a lot of violence. Lesnar didn't do much in terms of using the weapons. Dean didn't get a lot of offense in, even. And so, it was all just very confusing and quite frankly, disappointing, to be honest. And then Lesnar won. And I thought that, this would be the time for Dean to win, because, it was this whole thing with, like, there was no disqualification, Ambrose can win that way. No, I guess not. I guess Lesnar still wins then. And the question becomes, who beats Lesnar? I don't know. But we'll have to see, because someone's got to beat him eventually. After that was the women's triple threat match for the brand new women's championship. And I like the belt. I like the fact that it looks like the male's belt, but a different color. I like that all the women had special entrances. Becky Lynch got a crap ton of smoke pyro. Sasha Banks had Snoop Dogg perform her entrance with the confetti, and Charlotte wore her father's robe with a bunch of pyro and stuff. It made the match seem like a big deal. And it was a big deal. It was arguably the most important women's match in WWE history. At least in WrestleMania history. And it delivered. It absolutely delivered. It was a great match. Personally, it's my pick for match of the night. No joke. The three of them really put on a great show, a great showing together. Somehow Becky got like a really bad injury to her eye. No idea how that happened, but all three of them look like stars, and the ending was kind of weird. So, in addition to the ending being kind of weird, during the match, they've been doing this throughout the pay-per-view. Occasionally they would put messages on the big screen at the top trying to get people to chant things. Like during the New Day match, they had, "Hey, we want some New Day" on the screen, and during Brock Lesnar's match, they had the number of suplexes he was doing on the screen. And then for this match, they had "Woo" on the screen, for Charlotte and Ric Flair, but the problem is that Charlotte's supposed to be the heel, and Charlotte won the match, thanks to Ric Flair holding Sasha Banks back from breaking up the submission attempt on Becky Lynch. And it kind of killed the momentum a little bit for me, because it's kind of like, yeah, this match is great. Oh, what? Because it seemed like everything was just custom made for Sasha to get the big win, to get the big moment, the big crowning moment for the women's division, and it didn't happen. And this whole thing was very weird. And then was the Hell in a Cell match between Undertaker and Shane. And it was a weird match, because they didn't really do much going into it in terms of the whole stipulation of like Shane getting control of Raw and all that, because like Triple H and Stephanie didn't do anything that night promoting that. There was no Vince the entire show. It was mentioned, but it wasn't mentioned that much. And the match was 30 minutes, and it probably should have been 10 minutes shorter, to be honest. I actually do think most of the offense Shane got in was believable, simply because Undertaker is a lot older at this point. And that's how I kind of, in my mind, I justified his offense. And actually, I think this match hurt the Street Fight too. I didn't have to, but that's another reason why that match didn't deliver in my mind. But I think the reality is that I think most people, for weeks, they've been hyping up this expectation that Shane's going to jump off of something. And, people were waiting for Shane to jump off of something. He did the coast to coast, which people were excited for, and he did it great. It was successful coast to coast. But the crowd really seemed to pick up once they got outside of the cell. And as soon as Shane looked up at the cell, people knew what he was thinking and got very excited. And I honestly couldn't believe this actually happened, because I didn't think it was going to happen. It's weird, because I was expecting it to happen, but I also wasn't expecting it to happen, Like the realistic side of me was like, there's no way that they're going to do this. No, they did. They did. He climbed to the top of that cell, which is higher than the cell that Mick Foley came off of. And he jumped off and tried to elbow drop Undertaker and missed. And went right through the table. And, I did see the the crash pad that they had underneath the table, which I'm glad that's there. That probably helps. Probably helped, but just Jesus. How do you even do that? I wonder if he regretted his decision when he got to the top of the cell, because he kind of looked like he did. But yeah, that was the finish of the match. Undertaker brought him back in the ring, hit him with the tombstone, and won. And the crowd, from what I could tell, and based on what people were saying who were there, were bummed out that Undertaker won, because they wanted Shane to win and get control. Even before the stipulation that Undertaker would never wrestle in WrestleMania again was established, I was predicting that Undertaker was going to win, because I thought that, Shane's not going to take over Raw and things are just going to stay the same. And then when they made the stipulation that, we'll never see him at WrestleMania again, I thought that that's it. He's winning. So it's what I expected it to be. And that's all there is to it. But yeah, a lot of people were bummed out. And I think this was a big problem with what happened at WrestleMania this year. Jericho, League of Nations, Lesnar, Charlotte, and Undertaker. For all intensive purposes, we had a big streak of heels winning matches at WrestleMania. And, you can debate whether or not Lesnar and Undertaker are heels. For the purposes of their matches and the crowd reaction, they were the heels. And you had all these heels winning. And it makes me wonder if part of the reason Zack Ryder won was just so the crowd can start happy. Yeah. But it was such... The endings of so many of these matches are so weird. Because, the wrestling, for the most part, actually, was good, but weird endings. And then they had the Andre Giant Memorial Battle Royal. DDP made a surprise entrance. Tatanka had a surprise entrance, although he accidentally left with the rest of the crew instead of getting his own separate entrance. And then Shaquille O'Neal had a surprise entrance, which didn't see that one coming. Was very surprised, pretty shocked. He did. His participation was very minimal, as it should be, considering he has little to no wrestling experience. He apparently challenged Big Show to a match, so that might be a thing next year at WrestleMania, which get him publicity, that's for sure. In the end, Baron Corbin won, which honestly, if it's a good way of using the Battle Royal to kind of promote a new guy from NXT. So hopefully they do something right with him. But yeah, the Battle Royal itself, it was better than last year's. It was not as good as WrestleMania 30 in my opinion. But yeah, it was okay. And then The Rock came out, and at this point, it was already 11 o'clock, and the first match was at 5:45. It's been a long night, and I can only imagine how long the night had been for people in Europe. But The Rock came out, announced the crowd attendance number. I didn't care. He had a really long special entrance. I was just so tired and done with the night. The Wyatt family came out. Rock ran him down. He beat Eric Rowan in 6 seconds. And then the Wyatt family went to attack. John Cena made the save, and that's it. Then they stand tall. John Cena's not back full-time yet. And yeah, at that point, the Wyatt family as heels were completely dead. They were dead. They're just, at that point, it's rare to use the term buried, but at that point they were dead. They were just dead. And then it was time for the main event. The main event was, I don't know if it's really fair for me to judge it completely, because all I can think of is just end the match. Just end the match, because the event didn't end until 10 to 12. So, 6 hours of watching the show, which it was almost 7 if I had started at the pre-show at the beginning. And I just didn't care. I didn't like Triple H's entrance. I think the one from 30 is the best. But this one was just dumb. Crowd kept booing for Reigns. They cheered for NXT. I heard chants for Nakamura. Some people who were there described the boos as deafening. Reigns has done the spear through the guardrail so many times that it's not interesting anymore. And I just don't care. Reigns won. The most exciting thing was that Stephanie actually took a spear, which is good. She needs to get her butt kicked sometimes, with the amount of crap she gives wrestlers. But it wasn't enough. Reigns wins, which was the most, but I don't know. This entire show, it was just, it wasn't bad wrestling, but it was a mix of good and okay wrestling with questionable endings for the most part. And this WrestleMania main event was just kind of me realizing that this whole thing with Reigns as the babyface, hero conquering champion, it's not working. It is absolutely not working. And I hope that Monday Night Raw is a sign of them learning their mistakes. We're actually running a bit short on time, so let's get through Monday Night Raw a bit quickly. For a Raw after Mania, it was actually disappointing. I felt like I'm generally a bit positive on Raw, but I was just I just couldn't get into most of it. It felt very dull most of the time. It started with Shane McMahon getting control of Raw for the night because Vince decided to give it to him to prove that him being in charge was a bad idea. New Day defending their titles against Sheamus and Kofi. Sheamus and Wade Barrett. They actually had a good match. New Day won, and then the League of Nations kicked out Wade Barrett. And then the Wyatt family attacked the League of Nations, which is exactly what they needed to do. They turned the Wyatt's face, which means that everything that happened to them with The Rock has been erased, and when you turn, you get a fresh slate. So their faces now, and hopefully things can improve. Can't get any worse. Sasha Banks beat Summer Rae in a quick match. It was mainly just there to reestablish that Sasha is still the boss. So we'll have to see where they go from there. Apollo Crews beat Tyler Breeze. That's right. Apollo Crews made his debut on the main roster. I'm honestly surprised it took this long for Vince to call him up, just because he's a big guy, and I think he can do well in WWE, to be honest. So we'll have to see. He's athletic, and I think he can do well, because he's a talented guy. The match was a basic squash. I imagine they put him with Tyler Breeze just to show off his skill set, and it's a bit sad what happened to Tyler Breeze. Hopefully, I don't know, hopefully they can do something with Tyler, but Apollo looks like he's got some good things going for him. Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler went to a double countout in a match that made Corbin look like an idiot. It's really bad start for him right out of the gate. So I might be able to fix that. The Miz beat Zack Ryder for the Intercontinental Championship. And at the same time, Maurice returned to support her husband. On one hand, really glad Maurice is back. On the other hand, like, they could have used this opportunity to give Zack Ryder a title run, because this is one of those instances where a title can help make a person if you book it right. Maybe they'll give the guy a few, I mean, he lost again on SmackDown due to Maurice cheating. Maybe they'll continue it. Maybe he'll win the title back. I hope that's where they're going for. Match itself was okay. It wasn't their best, but it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I just want Ryder to like get a decent title run, Hopefully he does well. Reigns came out and told the audience that he's not a bad guy, he's not a good guy, he's the guy. Which really makes me hope that at the very least Reigns is a tweener now, and maybe that they're planning on doing a heel turn soon. We'll have to see. But I think they realize something's not working with, babyface Reigns, and that might change. So I'm looking forward to that. But he was confronted by Jericho, Zayn, AJ Styles, and Owens, and a four-way was made between them. Although later in the night, Sami Zayn was attacked by Kevin Owens and he was taken out of the match. Now, he's not actually hurt. Just to let everyone know, he is fine. To my understanding, it was just an angle. They had a coronation for Charlotte, and it was weird because at first she was cutting essentially a shoot, thanking people for, improving the women's division of WWE. But the problem is she's a heel. And the crowd was heckling her because they figured that, because they saw the part where because they knew that she was going to become insincere. And she was going to be like, I like to thank me and all that stuff. They saw it coming. They saw the crocodile tears coming from her face and all of that. And the crowd started chanting for Bayley, which is great. They're booing a heel and they're cheering a babyface. That's what you want. That's a good thing for the women's division. Problem is that despite the fact that everything seemed to point to Bayley coming up on Raw, it didn't actually happen. She wasn't there, which makes things very odd. Instead, Charlotte's next feud is going to be with Natalya, which I imagine Charlotte will win, and it's very possible that due to that reaction, they might be better off having Bayley be the one to dethrone Charlotte and not Sasha. Because I imagine that's the plan, but I don't know. It's so bizarre. I would have bet money on Bayley coming up the Raw after WrestleMania, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. If it was me, I'd have Bayley come up maybe in a month or two and maybe have her dethrone Charlotte at SummerSlam. Because Bayley is really popular. And she can make WWE a lot of money because I don't know if there's anyone who has as many fans in all the demographics as she does. Because adults and children both love her. Male and females both love her. Everyone loves Bayley. And they can make a lot of money off of her. And if, I think she should be the one to dethrone Charlotte at this point. It should have been Sasha, but you might be better off going with Bayley. So we'll have to see. Dudley Boys and Usos had a rematch. It was a tables match, and the Dudleys won. It was actually it was a very unremarkable match. And then, the timekeeper actually botched the finish of the match because the Usos tried to put Dudleys through a table via two splashes, but they both missed, and they both go through the tables themselves. But the timekeeper rang the bell then, which is not what the finish is, because in a tables match you have to get put through a table, not go through a table yourself. And to kind of save it, Devon immediately goes for the finish and throws one of the Usos through a different table to officially win the match. But you can tell that Bubba was very angry at this finish. And honestly, most of the show was very unremarkable up to this point. And then Kaz and Enzo showed up. And all I can think is, thank God. Because I've been expecting them to come up since SummerSlam. I've been waiting so long for them to come up to the main roster. And the crowd responded big. People love Kaz and Enzo. Enzo cut a great promo. It was hilarious. He said that the Dudley Boys' face they're so ugly, their tears run down the back of their head to avoid their face. It was great. And I hope that they do great things with Kaz and Enzo. A bit weird that they didn't bring up Carmella, but hopefully they'll bring her up too at some point. But yeah, this turned the show around. And then we got to the Fails 4-Way. And it was revealed that replacing Sami Zayn was Cesaro. Hey, Cesaro's back. And I loved his entrance. He came out from the other side of the stage, because usually people enter from the left side. He entered from the right. Apparently there's actually a way to do that. He was wearing a suit, which I thought was kind of clever to make it look like he wasn't expecting to be in the match. But then he literally rips off the suit and has his ring gear underneath. It was great. If there's one match from Raw that you should watch, it's the main event. Main event was great. It was a great Raw main event. And in the end, AJ Styles won, which was surprising. Which also makes me wonder, why did Jericho win the night before? I don't know. But AJ Styles is number one contender. And this is actually, I couldn't believe when I read this, but this is the 4th year in a row where the person who lost this second match at WrestleMania main evented the next pay-per-view. At WrestleMania 29, Ryback lost to Mark Henry and then challenged John Cena at the next pay-per-view. At WrestleMania 30, Kane, along with the New Age Outlaws, lost to The Shield and then challenged Bryan at the next pay-per-view. Last year, Seth Rollins lost to Randy Orton and then won the title at the end of WrestleMania and then main evented the next pay-per-view defending against Randy Orton. And then this year, AJ Styles lost the second match to Chris Jericho, and now he is challenging Roman Reigns for the title. And my first thought was, where does the Bullet Club come into this? Because we know at some point Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson is showing up. Now maybe they're showing up on NXT to support Finn Balor. Who knows? Maybe they're showing up at the pay-per-view, at Payback, to support AJ Styles. Maybe AJ Styles beats Roman Reigns for the title. Maybe they realize Roman's not working. We're going to get WrestleMania out of the way, and we're going to give AJ Styles the title, and that's it. I don't think that's going to happen. What I think might happen is the Bullet Club's going to show up. They're going to tease helping AJ Styles, but instead they help Roman Reigns win, and Reigns goes full heel. And that might be the best way, because he's not working as a babyface. He needs to turn heel at this point, or at least be a tweener, because he's getting booed a lot. It's not even like John Cena where people's chanting, "Yeah, let's go Cena. Cena sucks." There are very few people chanting, "Let's go Roman." Like, he's getting mostly just boos and apathy, and it's not good. And I think if he beats AJ Styles via cheating, that will get him so much heat and get people to boo him. And they can do great things with that sort of trio. Making his own, you can call it the Roman Empire, the Roman Club, maybe. That would be an interesting thing to do. So, yeah. There you have it. We got some interesting things in store. I'm actually looking forward to the next episode of Raw, and it's weird. I'm already looking forward to Payback more than I was looking forward to WrestleMania. It's funny how good booking can can help that, but yeah. Overall, Raw was not great, but from Kaz and Enzo on, that part you should definitely check out. Really enjoyed that part, and we'll have to see what happens in the future. But yeah, before we close things out, I just wanted to let people know what I plan on doing in the future. So, American Ninja Warrior doesn't start until June 1st. And with Team Ninja Warrior done, if you want to hear the end of my thoughts on the final episodes of that show, you should check out episode 12 of the Final Stage podcast. But what I'm doing is in between now and when A&W debuts, I have this DVD called Nickelodeon Games and Sports. It contains episodes of Guts, Figure It Out, Family Double Dare, Super Sloppy Double Dare, Nick Arcade, and Legends of the Hidden Temple. And so, in between now and then, I'll be checking out one of these shows each week, and I'll be talking about it, just sort of reliving the past and reminding the shows that I used to watch as a youth, the various physical challenge shows, and also Figure It Out. So yeah, it'll be fun to watch, I think, and fun to reminisce about the past. So yeah, got this single disc DVD. Should be fun. I hope you look forward to that. But until next time, thank you everyone for listening to the Final William podcast. Check me out on Twitter at 222will, and also 222productions.com and 2-2.com. And I will see you next time. Thanks everyone.